There's nothing the enemy can do to stop what God has for you. There's nothing the enemy can do to stop what God has for you. You're a woman without limits. Woman, 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 woman without limits. Na 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 na. Woman without limits. Woman.
I came to tell you, daughter of Zion, forget about your prayer partners. Oh, there comes a time when you don't need no prayer, nobody. There comes a time when you lie prostrate before the Lord and you're the only one that can call him in a way nobody else can. There comes a time when you can touch the hem of his garment when there is a crowd like this, but he knows somebody touched me.
We are not going to wait until the devil attacks us. We are going to the camp of the devil to terrorize, to pull down, to scatter everything that he has erected against our destiny.
Time of warfare is not the time of jealousy, malice, and all kinds of murmuring. No, it's a time to be focused.
I came to tell you, you need a personal God that you can say, but and silence every work of Satan in your life in the name of Jesus. Good evening, viewers. You're welcome to Woman Without Limits. I don't know if you know it, but that's exactly who you are. Because the Word of God says that you are fearfully and wonderfully made. And God continues to tell us that whoever finds a wife finds a good thing and obtains favor before God. So you are that woman without limits, and don't you ever let life or anything limit you. My name is Reverend Kiuna, and I'm delighted to be bringing you tonight's Woman Without Limits program. It's going to be amazing. I want you to buckle your safety belt because we're about to take off. We've been bringing different stories of mighty, powerful, awesome, wonderful women and men alike. And today, it's not going to be different. We are taking it even a notch higher. We're going to be hearing from a woman that is doing wonders. I tell you, in this nation, everybody happens to know her because in her own right, she is doing some dynamic work that we're going to get to hear about. I don't know how many of you have heard of Zawadi, but you're about to hear it. Why don't you welcome with me Mrs. Susan Mboya Kidero. It's so good to see you.
And you too.
Yes, and you look lovely.
Thank you, as do you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Now, Susan, many people have heard about you. Many have seen you, but they have no clue who Susan is. They just see a beautiful woman who does a lot, you know. So today we just want to get a little deeper and just get to know who Susan is.
Sure.
You are Susan Mboya Kidero. Yeah. Now we want to start with the Mboya, you know.
Sure.
Before we get to the Kidero.
Yes.
And so, you know, tell us who Susan is.
Susan Mboya?
Yes.
Okay. Susan Mboya was born a long time ago. I won't tell you how long ago.
Please
because
don't
your
say.
audience is extremely young.
Yeah.
Grew up, is a Kenyan.
Yeah.
Nairobi born, bred,
Yeah.
grew up in a family that, you know, I think, as you know, has been very much in the spotlight.
Yes.
A loving extended family. I grew up with a single mom. My mom raised us, a very strong, very powerful, very righteous woman, who taught us, I think, that we were growing up while we didn't have my father with us. She made sure we also nevertheless understood that we were privileged and that with privilege comes a lot of responsibility.
Yes.
My mom was what you would call old school.
Yeah.
You know, the parenting of those days was different.
The one of tuning
The
and
one
doing.
of those things, and the one of, you know, you came number 2.
Yes.
Why were you not number 1?
Hey.
That kind of mom.
Wow.
Which you don't appreciate at the time.
Yeah.
I keep telling my son, you'll appreciate it one day.
Yes, I know.
And I appreciate it now. My mom worked.
Yeah.
And you know, was very dynamic in her own way. She was the wife of a politician.
Yeah.
But she was also very much a homemaker.
Wow.
And you know what is interesting is I've sort of ended up being her.
Oh my God, that is so amazing.
Yeah, but I studied sciences pretty much throughout school.
Okay.
I became a pharmacist, and then decided that I wanted to go into marketing. So I switched careers, went into marketing.
Yeah.
And did that for most of my career. I worked at Procter & Gamble initially. Worked on very many different brands. And now I work with Coca-Cola.
Okay. Now, did you have siblings growing up?
I did.
Yeah?
I have a sister who's older, and 3 brothers. One of my older brother passed away
Okay.
about
sorry
8
about
years
that.
ago. He was my hero.
Oh.
And I have 2 younger brothers.
Okay.
So we're a very close-knit family.
Yeah. So when your daddy went to be with the Lord unexpectedly, suddenly, did it devastate the family? Because some children were older.
Some
I know
were
you were
older.
very young at that
Yes,
time,
yes.
but your siblings were a bit older, so they could
Yes.
understand what was going on.
Yes,
Did it devastate the family?
You know, I think my older sister and brother, yes, because as you say, they understood what was going on.
Yeah.
They understood the implications. You know, my sister in particular has had to learn to live. I think she was very close to my father.
Yeah.
For me, I don't remember much. I don't remember really anything
you
other
were
than what I was
little.
told.
Yeah.
You know, we were all quite small.
Yeah.
You know, as a child, you know something isn't right.
Right? Yeah.
But you don't really know what.
Yeah.
You know, but the one thing my mother really taught us was that, you know, a lot of times people would come and they'd be like, oh, you know, you poor thing. And my mom wasn't having any of that.
Wow, what a strong mother.
Yeah, she was
oh
like,
my,
you know what?
You better give it up for that woman. Man.
Yeah.
Because that sounds like a woman without limits for real.
Absolutely.
So she held the family together.
She did.
And she refused to let go.
She did. And not just the immediate family,
Yeah.
as in us children, but my father's family, who, you know, sometimes
Wow.
when you lose a parent, then you drift away. We grew up with my father's family, very much part of our family. My grandparents, his brothers and sisters were extremely part of our lives, and her family. So she really embodied that African spirit of the extended family.
Yeah.
You know, we didn't have the nuclear family. We had the
And Kenyans
extended.
are really getting nuclear right now. eh?
Yeah, no, we were not
It's like,
nuclear.
stay away, we are a family of,
yes.
you know.
No. You know, my sister and I used
Oh.
to joke that we would go to bed in one bed and you'd wake up and you could be in another one, depending on who came overnight. You know, those days you could do that.
Yeah.
You know, you could just put your kids, 4 of them
Aside,
in a bed
yeah.
and let the relatives.
They take over.
Yes.
Yeah. Wow. So she was a very strong mother.
was.
And she carried along and just continued like nothing had happened. And of
did.
course, you can imagine she was also going through the pain.
Yes,
But she
yes.
shielded you guys
She did.
from that. That's a woman without
She
limits.
did. You know,
Wow.
we didn't know.
Yeah.
I'll be honest, I didn't know what she was going through. It's only as I was much older.
Yeah.
And even then, she never said. She, you know, I would just figure out that, you know, gosh, she must have. Now
She
that I'm an
must have-
adult,
yeah.
I
That must
can
have been
see.
hard.
Yeah. But she didn't want pity. She didn't want, you know, any of that. And she was very, very tough about our legacy. She was very clear that, you know,
You're going somewhere.
You're going somewhere,
Yeah.
and you've inherited a brand, and you are not going to be the person to mess up that brand.
Hey, come on.
You know, and she used to tell us, this is what your father has left you. He's left you your name.
Yes.
And that name is, you know, it's yours, but it's also something you have to pass on, and you pass it on as good, if not better.
So it's not going to go down.
No.
She
No.
refused for it to go down.
Absolutely.
What a
Absolutely.
woman.
Yeah,
Oh
yeah.
my goodness. That was amazing. How is she? How is she doing?
Well, my mom passed away
Oh, she
about
did.
4 years ago. Yes,
She
yes, yes. But
did.
she still is such a strong influence in all of our lives.
Wow.
Was up to the very end.
Yeah.
We talk about her as if she's still.
I know,
as
I
if
know.
she's
The way you
still
were,
here.
I
Yes.
thought she was.
Yes,
I
yes.
thought she was, but just by
Yes.
the way you were saying.
Yes, yes,
Oh my
yeah.
goodness, that's a strong woman.
She is,
We thank
she
God
is,
for
yeah.
her and for being able to raise you guys up
Yes,
and
yes.
to keep that legacy and not forget
Yes,
who your father was.
yes.
Now, your father died at a tender age.
Yes.
And yet he had done so much.
yeah.
I mean, every Kenyan knows Tom Mboya.
Yeah.
You know, that he died at a tender age, yet he had done so much.
Yeah.
Now, from what I hear and from what I read, he is the one that began what it is that you do today.
He did.
He
Yes,
did.
Yes.
He's the one that started sending children abroad.
Students abroad. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Talk to us about that.
Yeah, again, one of those things you kind of see when you're a child and don't really understand. It wasn't until I was much older. But
Yeah.
what he did was during the pre-independence period, he was very involved in negotiating for independence for Kenya.
Okay.
And I think one of the things he constantly heard was that we're not ready. Africans are not ready to govern themselves. You don't have the people.
Yeah.
And so he was working a lot with the American government, with President Kennedy's administration in particular,
Yeah.
to get scholarships, to allow very bright Kenyans to go overseas and study, so that when we got independence,
Yeah.
we would that excuse of you don't have people
Yeah.
who can run the country
Yeah.
would have to go away. Over the years, from pre-independence years, from 1959, actually till when he passed away, he sent over 1,000 students, not just from Kenya, but from other parts of Africa as well.
What?
And while 1,000 may not seem like a lot, when
But
you look
in
at
those
what they have
days,
done
yeah.
and who they have become,
Yeah.
you realize that the vision he had was
It was
amazing.
mighty.
Yes.
But then again, 1,000 in those days.
In those days, yes.
Would be maybe 100,000 in this
Yes,
day.
that's correct.
You know?
That's
because,
true.
I mean, in those days, people never went to the States they never
No,
went.
no.
If somebody went to the States, the whole clan went to the airport to see what? Really?
No, you are absolutely right. I mean, Wangari Maathai, who was one of the beneficiaries, tells the story in her book about going, I don't know if any of you have read, going from her village
Yeah.
and going to Nairobi for the first time, getting on a plane. Can you imagine this? In one session, going from Nairobi for the first time, getting on a plane for the first time. And those days, they didn't have all this, wonderful people who would meet you at the airport, landing there,
Yeah.
being put on a bus
Oh, my
to
God.
go to this
To
school,
university, yeah.
a bus for a whole day,
Yeah.
to go to school where she was going. I mean, those people
That's
were
deep.
brave.
That's deep. Because first and foremost, Nairobi was a shock.
Yes.
For somebody who's visiting
Yes.
Nairobi for the first time, it was an absolute shock.
Yeah.
Now to imagine going on a plane.
Yes, for the first time.
For the first time.
You arrive in New York, she was talking about the escalators. They had never seen anything like that
Yeah.
before.
Yeah.
And of those days, there was no cell phone. There was, once you left, you left.
Yeah.
And you sent a letter, and it got there 3 months later.
And it's your dad that sent Wangari Maathai.
Yes, yes.
What are you
she was
talking
one of the
about?
first one of the first in the groups. They were really bright, because there was such few opportunities.
Yeah.
He was really picking from the best and the brightest.
Okay. So Wangari Maathai was very
would be
bright.
one of those,
Yeah.
yes, yes.
And then I also saw that he also sent President Barack Obama's father,
His
to
father.
the States.
Yes, yes.
Hey, my Lord.
Yes.
Susan,
Yes.
that is why they say you never know
You never know.
who you come across in life.
Yes.
You should never trash anybody.
Yes.
You should never put anybody down
Yes.
because you just never know.
You never
You
know,
see,
yeah.
President Obama's father was sent there not knowing that
was
in
going
his
to come out.
loins
Yes.
there was going to come a president
Yes, yes.
who was going to run the... Come on, somebody.
Yes.
This is deep.
Yes, yes.
So your father's legacy continues.
It does.
Yeah.
About a little over 10 years ago,
Yeah.
I started getting to an age where I started saying, okay, well, what's my legacy going to be?
Yeah.
And I always used to ask my mom. My mom was actually also went to the U.S. to study, and I said, well, how come there weren't that many women
Yeah.
on the air list? And she says, actually, there were. But she says, in our day, you didn't get to use that education the same way.
Okay.
As a woman, you came back and the expectation of you was quite different. It was to settle down like she did, have your children, stay home, look after them, which in and of itself is a big responsibility.
Right.
And so I kind of felt like, well, gosh, there are a lot of really bright people who took advantage of this. Have we done enough for women? Are those same opportunities there for women? And I had reached a point in my career where I had people that I could ask for help.
Yeah.
And so we started scouting around for scholarships, and I found that there are a lot of schools in the U.S. that would love to have young, bright Africans,
Yeah.
but they didn't even know how to go about finding them.
Oh, wow. Now, you know what, Susan? My goodness, I'm just, when you're saying this, I'm just thinking about the power of a DNA.
Yes.
This thing is deep. I mean, a DNA is deep.
It is.
Because, see, you were so tiny, so you had no idea what your father became and what he did. And
Yes,
because you were too tiny
yes.
to even know what he was doing
Yes,
at that time,
at the
right?
time, yeah.
Then you grew up and you just found yourself following the same tracks
Yes.
and decided, I also want to help
Yes,
people
yes.
to go to abroad and
Yes,
further their education.
And further their education and become leaders, because I think that was the thing I took away.
Yeah.
It wasn't so much the education, it was that they came back and they did so much. The people who went there, they didn't waste that education.
Yeah.
And they didn't use it just for themselves. I mean, you look at the legacy of someone like Professor Wangari Maathai.
Yeah.
She's done so much for everyone.
For everyone.
And if you think of the investment that
Yeah.
was made, it was tiny compared with what she
Compared to the
what
outcome.
she gave back.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
And so that was it for me, was not just to send people, but how do you create leaders?
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. So tell us now. Now we've gotten to Zawadi,
Yes.
I think.
Yes. Yes. My
And
favorite
I'm
topic.
I'm sure those of you who are watching us by television and even those of you who are here, you've heard about Zawadi.
Yes.
It is a program that's really doing so much, especially for the girl child,
Yes.
and sending them abroad to go and now further their education
Yes.
and become leaders,
And
as
become
you
leaders,
say.
yes.
Why don't you tell us about Zawadi?
Sure.
'Cause I think
Talk
that's your
about
heartbeat,
Zawadi.
eh?
It is.
That's
It is. You can tell.
Yeah.
Well, as I said, we started in 2002, so a little over 10 years ago.
Okay.
And as I said, just started really with no grand vision. I just said, I really want to see what I can do to help. And I said, I'm going to start with girls, because I don't really see that many girls in
Okay.
leadership, or that many women.
Yeah.
Started with just three girls.
Wow.
And I talked to a couple of schools, managed to scrape together 3 scholarships. I went to my alma mater, which was Kenya High.
Okay.
And then I went to Alliance Girls, and I said, do you have girls who are really, really bright and who need scholarships? And they introduced me to these 3 amazing young ladies, just
Yeah.
incredible young ladies. And, we organized for them, we got them the scholarships, we organized for them to come to the U.S. I always tell them they survived by the grace of God, because I had no
Wow.
idea what I was doing at the time. They came, they stayed with me.
You were learning on the
I was
job.
learning on the job with
Oh
them.
my God,
you
yeah.
know, and they were very resilient.
Yeah,
We didn't even think about warm clothes. I mean, those are things we were thinking as we went along.
Yes. Oh.
And all of them did amazingly. I mean,
Wow.
so they were my first
Yeah.
group, 3, and we started over the years getting more and more organized, if you will.
Okay.
And now we send, probably this year we'll be sending about 35 girls.
Wow. Just this year alone.
Just this year alone.
Oh my
in
God! You know. Let me tell you, nobody really starts up there. Sometimes I look at the way we began church, and
Yes.
I'm like, okay, and people still came. You know,
You start small.
You start
and I
small.
tell people that, I said, don't look at where we are now.
Exactly.
Look at how we started.
Yes.
But what is really amazing is that those 3 girls are still with me, very much with me. I talk to them on a regular basis.
Yeah.
They're very much part of my
So
life.
it's actually like they're your daughters.
They are like my
Yeah,
daughters.
Yeah.
And, I tell people Zawadi is not it's a lifetime commitment on their part, because now they are the oldest girls in
Yeah.
the family, if you will, and they are very much not just the role models, but they set the pace for the ones who are coming.
Yeah.
All 3 of them are here, are back. 2 have PhDs.
Hey.
2 of them.
Hey. They're not joking. They're not playing.
They're not joking. They're not joking. But it also shows that, given a chance, just given a chance,
People can do a lot.
People can do amazing things. They have great jobs, but they're not just sort of saying, okay, now we're done.
Yeah.
They are actually going out there, and they are now helping girls in high school. And that's always, we have a motto with Zawadi: each one teach one. And so they've really lived up to that.
Oh, say that one more time. You went too fast. Each one
teach one.
So they all are supposed to raise up somebody else.
Absolutely.
Wow.
And they know that. And we really emphasize from the beginning that this gift is being given to you, but it is not free. And we're always very clear, it is not free. The expectation is you will use that to raise up others.
Oh my God. Isn't that much like the scripture?
It is.
I mean, really?
It is.
That's,
But if each one only did something for themselves, it's not
worth it.
it.
It's not
but if
worth
each one
it.
helps 10, 20, 100, last year alone, the girls, the whole group, we have 230 now. 230 girls in the
From
group.
3?
From 3, yes.
Wow.
They
Wow.
do their own programs.
Yeah.
They all want to give back. And last year alone, they reached or touched over 6,000 girls
Oh
and boys
my-
in primary and high school
What?
here.
6,000.
Over 6,000, yes. They go to high schools, they talk to these kids in high school, and they teach them about, first of all, they themselves are role models. They tell them, look, I came from exactly where you are. I've done all these amazing things.
Yes.
So it's possible.
Yeah.
Don't give up. Don't drop out of school. The guy who's telling you, I'm going to marry you, just tell him to wait a little bit. Because there's
Just
more.
a few more years, yeah.
Just wait a few more years. There's more for you. And, it is much more powerful coming from them than if I went to a high school and said, they'll be like,
Yeah,
what
it's
does
because
she
you're
know?
married. It's because you're married.
What do you know?
Yeah.
But a girl who looks like you talks that same Sheng thing.
Yeah.
They all
Yes, yeah.
language. They talk the same language, and
Yeah.
she's saying, I came from right here,
Yeah.
where you are. It is so powerful.
Wow.
So powerful.
So they go and raise others. And
They do.
so 230 have been able to go out there and
Yes,
come back.
and come back.
They're all back here.
No. They're starting to come back. A lot of
Okay.
we encourage them to go to graduate school. You know how
Yes.
competitive it is
Yes,
here.
yes, absolutely.
And we want them to be leaders. So we encourage them to go as far as they can go.
Yeah.
They are very bright, so of course they get into graduate school.
Yeah.
PhDs. A lot of them are studying for that. So we're now having the first few. Remember, I said we used to send very few.
Yes.
But in 2-3 years, we're going to start having the bigger groups
Numbers.
of 30, 40
Wow.
coming back. And I think that's when we'll really see the impact
Oh
of this
my
program.
God.
Yeah.
But I mean, even now, even the 3.
Yes.
Look, it really is like Jesus Christ.
It is.
I mean, he had the 3 disciples, he had the 12 disciples. Yeah. So there was different numbers.
Yes.
And they all impacted the world.
They
and
do.
so what I thank God for, and that's why I brought Susan today, is because you are affecting many, many lives.
Yes.
And, with one life, that can... They say one tree cannot make a forest,
Yeah.
right? But when you start raising 1, 2, 3, 4, they now make a whole forest.
Absolutely.
And they begin to raise others.
Absolutely.
We are so proud of you.
Thank you.
We are absolutely proud
Thank
of you.
you. And I'm proud of them.
Yeah.
They're amazing.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Wow. I'm sure they're watching you. You better be watching it. Yeah. I don't think there's anything as beautiful as sowing a seed,
Yes.
planting a seed, and seeing it germinate and become a mighty,
Yes,
harvest.
yes.
That's so beautiful. So what does it take to join Zawadi?
We look for 3 things.
Yeah.
We look for, obviously, academic brilliance. We want girls who are extremely bright. And that differs depending on where you started. So, we look for girls who have done extremely well in the context of where they're growing up.
Okay.
So, a girl from Northeastern, for example, she gets a B. That is huge.
That's huge.
It's huge.
That's
So we'll
huge.
look at somebody like that.
Yeah.
We look at leadership. And again, we'll look at some of the traditional things. Was she a captain in her school? Was she a prefect? But we also look at her life and how she's living her life.
Okay.
And we've had, for example, one girl who, again, from northeastern Kenya, who left home very young,
Yeah.
took her little sisters with her because she was worried about them going through female genital, and she took the initiative herself
Yeah.
to say, you know what, I've gone through this, but I don't want my sisters to go through the same thing.
Yeah.
And we said, you know what, that's a leader.
Wow.
That little girl is a leader.
Wow,
You know,
yeah.
it must have been frightening for her to do that.
Yeah.
And then we look at their financial situation. You know, not that there's anything wrong with people who have money,
Yeah.
but we said, you know, we really want to help the people who understand the issues personally,
Okay.
who come from a place where they've
Yeah.
lived them and where we know that they really have a burning desire to do something
Yeah.
about them. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so it doesn't matter where you are. It doesn't matter where you are.
No.
You can actually come
Yes.
to Zawadi if you fall into the three
Those categories.
under the
yes.
three categories.
Yes, yes.
Wow, that's
Yes.
beautiful.
Yes, and we cover the whole country. We are now actually in other countries as well.
Oh.
Ghana, Uganda, South Africa.
Wow.
But we're very proud of the fact that we really do represent the face of Kenya.
Wow, hold it right there. We'll be right back after this break. Did you ever think you'd be married to a politician?
No, definitely not.
Okay.
You know, we grew up in a house with politics.
Yeah.
None of my brothers and sisters or myself are in politics for a reason.
I came to tell you, daughter of Zion, forget about your prayer partners. Oh, there comes a time when you don't need no prayer, nobody. There comes a time when you lie prostrate before the Lord and you're the only one that can call him in a way nobody else can. There comes a time when you can touch the hem of his garment when there is a crowd like this, but he knows somebody touched me.
We are not going to wait until the devil attacks us. We are going to the camp of the devil to terrorize, to pull down, to scatter everything that he has erected against our destiny.
Time of warfare is not the time of jealousy, malice, and all kinds of murmuring. No, it's a time to be focused.
I came to tell you, you need a personal God that you can say, but and silence every work of Satan in your life in the name of Jesus.
You're welcome back. This is Woman Without Limits, and today we are hosting Mrs. Susan Mboya Kidero. And I tell you, if you've missed the half portion already, you've missed a lot. But nevertheless, you're welcome. What are some of the challenges that you've had to encounter in Zawadi?
Yes. You know, we've learned a lot over
Okay.
the years. And I would say most of the challenges were at the very beginning.
The teething?
And the teething.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I mean, I think we didn't fully appreciate initially how
Okay.
big a change it was for the girls. And we were not preparing them the way we are now.
Okay.
And for many of them, the culture shock was too much. They would struggle especially the first term. You know, the cold, the expectation. You know, I didn't realize for many of them how frightening this whole thing was, more from the standpoint of the expectation. You know, we would tell them all these things. I was talking like my mother, you better come out first in your class. And, and this girl is already so frightened of everything. And there I am telling her, if you're not first, you know.
You will deal with it.
You know, and so we realized that we have to balance what we say.
Okay.
They were putting too much pressure on themselves, you know, going where they couldn't even study.
Okay.
And, you know, we also realized this thing of making sure they had a mentor, someone there to wait for them and hold their hand and literally tell them everything's going to be okay.
Yeah.
Explain to them how to interact in a US classroom. It is so different than here. You know, here we used to get points for being quiet in class and listening to the teacher. In the US, you get points for talking. So, you know, if you're sitting quiet in the class, the teacher thinks you're not interested, you're not participating. So, you know, teaching them so you know, we learned to give them that extra helping hand.
Yeah.
We've also learned that sometimes we have to talk not just to the girls, but to the families that they're leaving behind, because that
right.
pressure doesn't just come from us. Sometimes it comes from the family, and
Yeah.
sometimes the family has very unrealistic expectations. You know, you're going to get there, and as soon as you get there, you're going to buy us a house. And
Oh.
this poor little girl.
Oh, yeah.
You know, so we've realized it's a whole family thing.
Okay.
Everybody has to be part of this process.
Yeah.
We have to set the expectations for the family that, you know what, you still need to support this girl, not the other way around.
Not the other way. Do
Yes.
you know, you're so right?
Yeah.
Because when somebody goes to the States, everybody here expects a handout.
yeah.
Because
Yeah.
they say it's a land of opportunity.
Opportunity,
So you're
yeah.
making a lot of dollars. So please
From
pass them
day
this
one.
way.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, they are struggling.
Yeah,
They need to pay. And there's too many bills to pay in
Exactly,
the States.
exactly.
So even you to survive.
Yeah, yeah.
You
And now
need-
that's not to say they shouldn't help their families.
Yeah.
They should, and they do.
Yes.
You know, I don't think there's a single girl who is there who is not helping the family in some way, shape, or form. We're just
Okay.
saying let them find their feet.
Yes,
And that
first.
is perfectly, not only fine, it is fully what we expect.
Right.
That they're going to use this opportunity to help the younger siblings, to help the people in the community. That's part of what we're sending them there for.
Yeah.
You know, but we just want the families to give them the opportunity to really do the best that they can.
Okay.
Yeah.
So really, Zawadi is your heartbeat, and what you want to see the girls become
Yes.
is leaders of tomorrow.
Yes, yes.
Yeah?
Yes. And today they're already leaders.
Yeah. Wow, that's awesome. The thing is this, that you are a powerful woman in your own right.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
and by the time you were even getting married to him, you were already having the Zawadi. You
Yeah.
were good.
Yes.
You
yes.
were.
I was working. I was doing
You
a
know,
lot of things.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
traveling a lot
And
too.
traveling a lot,
And
yes.
traveling a lot. And maybe you're going to tell us about that, how that works, eh? How
Yes.
you're able to juggle all that and and still be the governor's wife.
Yes, yes.
So, how is that? Did you ever think you'd be married to a politician?
No, definitely not.
Okay.
You know, we grew up in a house with politics.
Yeah.
None of my brothers and sisters or myself are in politics for a reason.
Okay.
You know, we saw it firsthand. And I think for all of us, we probably aspired as much as possible to normal.
Yeah.
We want to be normal.
Okay.
Not that being in politics isn't normal. But
I
it
know
is-
what
it
you're
is-
saying. I
it-
know.
you
I know what
we
you
want
didn't
to-
want many
Yeah,
people, and you know,
or
yeah.
even just the craziness that
Yes.
goes with it. And
Yeah.
so I don't think any of us was expecting to go back into that world.
Okay.
So yeah, it came as a bit of a shock.
This love, eh? The love thing.
The
eh?
love thing. You find yourself doing all
Yeah.
kinds of
You
things.
just you
that
don't know who you're gonna fall in love with.
Exactly.
Yeah, and you don't know the plans God has,
That God has.
ahead of you. You
Yes,
know.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
So you ended up there, and
Yes.
and how is that now?
You know, it's not as different as you might expect. I think, you know, in some ways you look back and you realize, gosh, I've been preparing for this my whole life.
Yeah.
I've been being prepared for this my whole
Okay,
life.
yeah.
My mother was married to a politician.
Yes.
She herself was a diplomat. So, you know,
Okay.
having a lot of people around
Yeah.
and entertaining and all that was part of the
The order of the
territory.
day.
It was the order
Yeah,
of the day.
yeah.
You know, I laugh a lot now because a lot of the things that she taught me and my sister and she made us do, you know, are coming in very handy now. You know,
Yeah.
being able to entertain, you know, 200 people like that.
It's nothing.
Well, it's not
Is
nothing,
it-
but
well,
yeah, but I can do it.
almost.
I
You can do it,
because I've
yeah.
seen my, you know, we learned a lot,
Yeah.
my sister and I growing up, and you know, a lot of that is really coming back to help me now.
Yeah.
I'm sure where my mom is, she's going, I told you.
Like I told you. And then she's saying, I did well.
Yes,
I did.
She is, and she's saying all
Wow.
the time you were complaining.
Yeah.
I knew what I
Yeah.
was doing.
Wow.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So it's good. It's enjoyable. You're
It
having
is,
fun.
it is.
And I think he's a good man.
He is a
You know,
fantastic man.
He is. Yeah.
He's one of my role models.
Come on. Hey.
He is.
Wow.
Yes. You know, he's got very high aspirations for us,
Yeah.
for this country,
Yeah.
for Nairobi.
Yes.
so, which is, as I said, I grew up in that kind of an atmosphere. People who
Yes.
aspire very, so it's very hard not to get caught up in that.
Yeah.
In the, there's so much we have to do that he wants to do. You can't really stand aside and say, oh, well, I don't
he's
really.
there.
Yeah. Because imagine if we are able to achieve all those things.
Wow.
Imagine
Wow.
where we would be,
Wow,
where we
so
will be
far.
when,
Yeah,
when
absolutely.
that happens. So, it's exhilarating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. And now on let me see. I want to put the words correctly. I'm just thinking. Have you gone through challenges? Being married to the governor, and I know he's absolutely busy, and I know all eyes are on you. And
Yes.
how is that? I mean, you don't just walk into a supermarket and buy your milk and omo.
What you do?
And then without hi, oh,
Yes,
it's you.
yes.
Oh my God.
Yes. That's changed. Yes,
Yeah.
that part of life has changed
Yes.
a little bit. We are both, he and I are very strong personalities. You and I were
Okay.
talking about that,
Yes.
that backstage,
Yeah.
about being strong women. And so probably the bigger change has been for us kind of refiguring our roles.
Okay.
Because I'm now having to support him very differently or play a very different role
Yes.
than I've played in the past.
Yes.
And I think what we've learned is to divide and conquer,
Okay.
is for me to do what I can to complement him. So we're not both doing the same thing
Wow.
and leaving some things, uncovered.
Yes.
Which is great, and that's why I said my mother's training is coming in very handy.
Oh, wow.
So I'm doing much more on the home front.
Okay.
Because now that's required a lot more. He's having to see a lot more people.
Yeah.
A lot more people wanting to see him.
Yeah.
So
So the entertainment bit is
the
kicking off.
entertainment bit
real-
is kicking in.
Yeah.
And then just spending time with him, as you said. I have a full-time job,
Yeah.
and I travel a lot. And he's very busy, and particularly now he does a lot of things in the evening. And realizing, look, if we're going to see each other,
Yeah.
just going to have to adjust and just sort of follow him everywhere
Yeah.
where he goes.
Yeah.
So so there's some changes that we've had to make.
Okay.
But I think we're both very cognizant of the fact that we have to make time for each other.
Wonderful.
And for our family.
Right.
And I will say he's very, very dedicated to that, to making time for us.
Wow, yeah.
And for me, making sure that when I'm here, we try and find opportunities.
Okay.
He goes to work at a ridiculous hour, I think I was telling you.
Yes,
And,
very, very early in the
very,
morning.
very early in
By
the
the way,
morning.
my husband always says, you see the big cars
Yes.
from 5, and 6 o'clock.
Yes.
You see very, big, the Mercedes and the limousines, and Lamborghinis, and and the Prados, and all the big cars. Then from 8, 9, you begin to see the Vitz and.
Well, if I'm honest, I was the 8, 9, 10.
Really?
The little car. But I've learned now, if I'm going to spend time with him, we drive in. So I have to wake. I've had to become a morning person, which I wasn't.
Wow. So you've had to make adjustments
both
to
of us
fit
have.
and to
Yeah.
be able to enjoy the marriage and at the
Yes.
same time the much work
Yes.
that's needed.
Yes,
How
yes.
about critics?
Oh,
Because
yes.
you will
Oh,
always have critics,
Yes.
and especially now.
Yes.
And people, and I've seen people don't have mercy.
Yes.
They are so unforgiving,
Yes.
and they don't give you time.
Yes.
You've barely known the office.
Yes.
You've barely understood the furniture,
Yes.
and people are already hitting on you. What are you
Yes.
doing?
Yeah.
When
Yeah.
how is that the criticism?
It's tough. It's tougher probably for me than it is for him.
Okay.
He's a very, you've met him.
Yes.
He doesn't get fazed very much. He doesn't take things
In-
personally.
inside-
No,
yeah,
no.
yeah.
He's very clear. He's got his plan and he's going there.
Yeah.
And sometimes these things, they just sort of, I'm the one who probably gets very,
the woman,
I'm
we are
very
naturals.
protective.
Yeah.
I'm like, why? How can you say that
Yeah.
about about my husband? So,
Yeah.
I probably get more upset
Okay.
when I read those things or when I hear those things.
Yeah.
But as long as it's not affecting him,
Okay.
I'm okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, so women are naturals.
Yeah.
So automatically you want to fight
You want-
whoever
yeah,
touches your
yeah,
man. You're like,
yeah.
what?
Yeah.
You know?
Oh yeah.
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 Okay. How does he, being that you're a strong woman, how does that work with him? Did it affect him at any one time? Does he sometimes feel, oh my God, this is too powerful? Because honestly, I believe that only very secure men
Yes.
can deal
Yes.
with powerful women.
I fully agree.
Yeah.
And I think he fits that category.
Uh-huh.
What I'd say is he's wise.
Wow.
He's learned. As I said, we're both very strong and both
Yeah.
very used to doing everything.
Yes.
And so sometimes we would find we've duplicated. So I've done this, and then I find he's also
done it.
the same
Yeah.
thing, or he's, so we've taken care of whatever it is. Somebody calls from home and says, we need this done. I take care of it, and then I find he's also taking care of it. So we've,
Yeah.
as I said, we've learned to divide and conquer.
Okay.
Which wasn't easy.
Okay.
We finally came with this sort of rule that says everything in the house is me and everything outside the house is him.
Okay. Oh, wow. Wow. That's a good one. Yeah. Oh, that's a good one.
yeah,
So you're finding balance
We
and you're
are.
fine.
We
How
are.
about your traveling? It doesn't affect?
It does. As I said, we've had to learn to maximize the time that we're together.
How much do you travel?
I travel a lot.
Eh.
I travel quite a bit, maybe a couple of weeks, sometimes in a month. It
Wow.
just depends.
Yeah.
I've also learned that when I'm traveling, I can work a lot. So I can leave a lot of the work and really sort of plug away when I'm traveling, because I can stay up till 2, 3 in the morning. I'm a night person.
Wow.
And then that way, when I'm home, I'm
Yeah.
home, and I'm not trying to get
Moving
other
your-
things
yes,
done.
yeah.
So we can really focus.
Ah,
Yeah.
so you use the time. So when you're out there, you work a lot.
Yes.
And when you come home, you use that time to bond.
Yes.
That's
yes,
a wise
yes,
woman.
Yes.
That's a virtuous woman right there. Oh, that's beautiful. That's
yes.
awesome.
Yeah.
So what next?
As I said, life hasn't changed that much.
Right.
I still get to do the things that I'm passionate about.
Okay.
The Zawadi, the work that I do at Coca-Cola
Yeah.
as well, with the women's economic empowerment.
You said you were in charge of how many?
90 countries, about 90 countries. Yes.
Okay, 90 countries.
Yes.
What?
Empowering women, which is, it doesn't get much better than that.
It doesn't. It doesn't. Yeah.
But I don't, things haven't changed that
Okay.
dramatically. I still do those things.
Uh-huh.
I think the great thing is that they fit very much with
Wow.
what I'm expected to do now.
Yes, yes.
And where, with what he's trying to accomplish.
Uh-huh.
So it all works quite well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that is so good. That is so good. We are proud of you.
Thank you.
We want you to know that we are praying for you.
Thank you.
And together with the governor, because I
Thank
know
you.
there is so much on his shoulders.
Yes, yes.
But if we come together as Kenyans, I believe we're going to conquer.
Thank you.
Especially if we don't let it be a one-man show, but we all
you.
join
Yes.
forces,
Yes.
and everybody takes their beat, and we do what we need to do for our nation.
Yes.
I believe we're going to make it.
Yes.
And so just know we are praying for you. Tell him we are also praying for him.
Thank you.
Yeah?
Thank you. And I think his request, because I would be remiss if I didn't ask as well. I know that, to your point, he knows he has a lot to do.
Okay.
But he also knows he can't do it alone.
Wonderful.
And for him, I think one of the things he really wants is for us all to do our part. The other day he was, kicking off a cleaning exercise. And he was saying, we can, whatever he does, he cannot sustain it unless we also
Right.
say, you know what, I'm a proud Nairobian. I don't
Yeah.
want to see dirty streets.
Right.
I don't want to be part of the traffic problem because I keep cutting people off.
Right.
Let's learn to be really proud of who we are.
Wow.
And to do our bit.
Yes.
And yes, then we can hold him accountable as well.
Exactly.
You have to
Yeah.
do, but we also let's be part of the solution. Yeah.
Oh my God, that's awesome. That's beautiful. We actually need to do that. I was telling somebody the other day that if we can all love our nation, if we can all take it as part of us, it is us. This is our thing. This is our land. Then we can all work together and make it a beautiful nation together.
Absolutely.
Then we can all be proud together. As in, don't go littering. Because who do you expect to pick your dirt? You know what I'm saying? So we're praying for you.
Thank
I
you.
believe that you're going to make it.
Thank you.
You're going to make it.
And thank you for having me.
Yeah,
Yes.
thank you so much. This is Susan Kidero, and I'm sure that you've been totally, absolutely edified. And you're watching Woman Without Limits. Your life will never be the same again. Remember, life is all about empowering. If you can get somebody to empower in whatever area, in whatever capacity, then know that you're making waves. May the good Lord bless you. I am Reverend Kathy Kiuna. Have a blessed week. I came to tell you, daughter of Zion, forget about your prayer partners. Oh, there comes a time when you don't need no prayer, nobody. There comes a time when you lie prostrate before the Lord and you're the only one that can call him in a way nobody else can. There comes a time when you can touch the hem of his garment when there is a crowd like this, but he knows somebody touched me.
We are not going to wait until the devil attacks us. We are going to the camp of the devil to terrorize, to pull down, to scatter everything that he has erected against our destiny.
Time of warfare is not the time of jealousy, malice, and all kinds of murmuring. No, it's a time to be focused.
I came to tell you, you need a personal God that you can say, but and silence every work of Satan in your life in the name of Jesus. To welcome with me Her Excellency Rachel Ruto on set today.